morning, Spiritual Life Center. Welcome to the SLC Sunday Experience. We want you to know that you are in the right place at the right time.
That's right. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. And turn around and say hello to the live streamers. Good morning. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. And I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome. Can't hear you. Come on. My soul is welcome here. Yeah. My soul is welcome here. Yes, it is. My soul. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome. My soul is welcome. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
Greetings, good morning. Welcome to the Spiritual Life Center special place. Spick and spanned up from the cleaners yesterday. We'll hear more about that shortly.
And we greet you this morning in the name of all that is good, all that is sacred, and all that is holy, and in the warm and loving energy of this ministry, Spiritual Life Center. If you're with us for the very first time today, we especially want to welcome you because we know that you are not here by accident. Everyone here is here by divine
appointment.
And we're just thrilled to see everybody with us this morning and everyone who is live streaming with us.
And of course, we're grateful that you are silencing your cell phones
Thank you.
so we can have a direct connection to the source that reminds us of what the fundamental principles of unity are. And we've been saying that every week to remind us of what they are, so that if someone ever asks, what are the basic things we believe in as far as spiritual principles of unity, you'll be able to say these things off the tip of your tongue with no problem at all. So we're going to say it together, starting with 3, 2, 1. God is absolute good and everywhere present. People are inherently good. Thoughts create our experience. Pure meditation is how we connect with God. We must take action. Almost everything we say somehow comes out of those basic ideas. So have those in the front of your awareness and know that this is something that will guide us along the way to get through any challenge or difficulty at all. You know, throughout this season of nonviolence between January and April, we've been having readings to remind us of the principles of the season for nonviolence that were espoused by Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. And each week we've been having a reading. And so today, I think, is the final reading for the season of nonviolence, and it's our own Laree Shiflett. She's going to share the reading for today.
Okay, so believe it or not, I'm actually kind of nervous to public speak, but singing is,
Sing
okay.
it. Sing the song.
Okay, so today I cherish peace, giving it freely to others. The peace I so cherish in my life becomes sacred as I behold it as a divine idea of the Creator. Peace is a precious gift of God to all creation, and I hold it so in my mind and in my heart. Yet I know that cherishing peace and holding it sacred isn't enough to change what's happening on the planet. So today I live and move and have my being in the divine idea of peace in all creation. God as peace, I breathe your essence in. God as love, I release your essence into the world with my every breath. As I breathe peace and love in this way, I honor breath as sacred for the life force it represents. Today, I cherish peace, giving it freely to others. So peace hasn't always been the easiest thing for me to have in my life. I've had a pretty good childhood, but there were moments in my childhood that got very dark. Recently, as an adult, I had to learn how forgiveness is so important. And it's not as easy, as it sounds, but there is such a great release from forgiveness. Forgiving others, forgiving yourself. I won't go into detail, but having peace was a big struggle in my life for 7 years. I had a lot of pain and confusion. I had to eventually let some of that go and give myself that peace that I deserve. And we all deserve that peace within ourselves. Also, for the last 10 years, I've been dealing with a chronic pain condition in my feet, and it's been such a struggle to find peace through that. Every day I'm in pain, there are things I can do to help alleviate that pain, but it's never left. And so I have to work really hard on accepting that part of my life. Even after surgery, it was supposed to fix it. And, it's not easy, but when I give myself that peace and I tell myself, I know I'm going to be okay, or I tell myself, okay, you're going to get through the day, it's all right, and when it really hurts, and I just focus on what I can do and what I have in my life, that's where I find peace in my situation. Coming to SLC, I've had my own experience. When Ann contacted me with my first gig about a year ago, I was going through a time where I lost my faith, actually. My mom was sick for 3 years with an illness that was a mystery, and she's happy and well today. Yay. Hey, God. Mom, if you're watching this, love you. It took a long time to get there. It was really hard for all of us, especially her, watching her hurt so badly. And the thing is we prayed and prayed and prayed, and it just didn't seem to help. I mean, we tried everything. And so I just lost it. I was like, no. And then she started getting better, and it was pretty amazing how it happened. And I won't go into detail with that. This is very personal. But I see now that God was working his magic, and her coming back was definitely God's love. So my faith slowly started coming back to me, and I had no intention to start believing again. I was happy where I was. I was like, I'm good. But I kept getting signs. And I was like, okay. Yeah, and I'll come and sing at SLC. And I remember walking in here, actually, the first time I ever walked in here, I was like, what is this place, I had never been to a church like this before, and I felt peace the moment I walked in. So after months of singing in the SLC band, my love grew more and more, and meeting all of you lovely people, and my faith was restored. And I truly feel like I was meant to be here, and I love being a part of the SLC community because it truly is a community of peace and love. So today, I cherish peace, giving it freely to others. I challenge you to find inner peace with whatever you're going through, and I promise it will feel good. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou, you're a natural, so always come forward.
You might be noticing that things look a little spiffier around here, and that's because yesterday was the community cleanup, and we had lots of people show up for it. I want to thank the facilities committee, and that committee is Gil Wright, Elaine Leroy, George Piper, Michael Keene, Leslie Leggio, and Rick Mercer, and they're the ones who organized this. And then, what did you say, 28 people, Elaine? Anybody who was here, would you please
Yes,
stand
any of
up?
the folks that-
If you came to the clean, stand up, please. And I believe that we have a little video.
A little picture show. Click.
Whoops. The joys of technology. James, you're the one who took that picture, right?
I probably did, but you know, there was a lot of pictures taken yesterday.
I know, but I heard that you showed up to say thank you and take the group picture and then do a selfie.
Yeah, oh, that I
That's-
did.
that's
Now
what I
where
heard.
that is, I have no idea.
It's in there at the end.
Uh, Yay! It was a crackerjack crew. They were awesome. Very, very good.
So this Wednesday, we are back to our drumming circle. We didn't have it last month because of Ash Wednesday. So Dominic Garcia is going to be doing the African Caribbean drumming circle in here. And for those who want something a little bit quieter, I'll be having a spiritual exploration over in the chapel. So join us. We are going to Salad because it's April. And so Salad is at 6 and the program is at 7.
Okay, and you got something else?
Well, I guess so. So our newsletter is coming out on Tuesdays now. So there's the Tuesday newsletter. Look in your bulletin for the spring calendar. And then Celia, I believe, has something to share with us.
Yay, Celia.
Thanks so much. It's funny because today I think is the last day for bot applications, and we're looking for new bots because I actually left the board of trustees to move into my role helping with marketing because we're launching our new website on Tuesday. I know, super exciting. What's really great about this website is that it's open, it's welcoming, it really introduces our community to newcomers, really engages them, makes them want to come and see us. What's also really great is that we have a Friends of SLC forum, which means that you can actually sign up for your own account within the website and have communications. So if you are not somebody who's a fan of social media, I am not a fan of Twitter these days, I don't know about you guys, you can actually join in and have conversations straight from our website. So check that out. That's Tuesday.
All right, thank you. And it looks magnificent, so make sure you check that out. Oh, okay, today is the last day to take the early bird rate for Feathers of Freedom Camp that's going to be taking place in August. It's a great way to unplug from the everyday city life and step into simple and fun camp experiences that anyone can attend, youth and adults. So I think there's information on the website about that.
So check it out at the cashier's table. The Legacy Living series is going to kick off with a first offering called Myth, Lies, and Opportunities of Aging. It's facilitated by Lorna Shevland, and it promises to offer many ways that life can be enriched at any age, but especially after 50. Of course, no one here is there, but see your insert for full details, and look for more workshops and classes that support your living up to your best life now.
And part of that, living up to our best life now, just to remind them, having a class this Thursday, starting this Thursday, called Truth Principles for Modern Living. And it's going to be based upon the concepts of Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth, but it'll be supplemented by, other ideas that teachers have been bringing forth in most recently. And I always said that when I first got involved in Unity and I was going through my own transformation, that was one of the first books that I read that really gave me a different perspective of what is the nature of God, what is the nature of human beings, and what is the nature of the two of them. And it applied to really make a difference in my own life. So we're going back to basics, so to speak. And if you want to have a little good time understanding that, I invite you to be part of that.
Reverend Gary Simmons is going to be here this week. He's going to be here Friday, April 5th with an update on the process of where we are now and where we can go with Mission Centric. So your questions and your feedback are going to add to our evolution. So this is for the congregation. It will be from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Friday night, and you can come and just ask any questions that you want that pretty much pertain to the church.
And we have an announcement here from our Board of Trustees President, Carolyn Cochran, to share something about how you can get involved.
Hey, everybody. I feel like I've been gone forever. I come back from the land down under. We've been touring Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji, so back to reality here, time zones and all. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you about serving on the Board of Trustees. Today is the last day, the deadline for submitting applications for board vacancies for this year. And I don't know how many applications we have right now, but we may consider extending the deadline, but that is not official, so don't count on that. If you're feeling the nudge, feeling called, get an application in today, even if you can fill something out as a placeholder and then maybe give us more information later. But be thinking about ways to step up and be in ownership. You'll hear Friday from Gary about this is our community, and stepping into a deeper level of service makes a huge difference. I can tell you, actually, I've been on the board for 5 years now. It's hard to believe. I have 1 year left, and then I term out. But the difference has been huge for me. It's been about learning really how the church operates and all the issues and concerns and all the balls in the air that are constantly juggling around, and the complexity of what it takes to create the support for this community. So when you're on the board, you really learn how things work. You feel like you're a part of some of the decision making and the direction for your community. It's huge. And then feeling like you're contributing at a deeper level. I mean, I have stepped up in both time, treasure, and talent in ways I'd never imagined, and have learned so much. So it's a twofold thing. You get so much because you are giving of yourself. So there's the satisfaction from that, and then what you're learning is tremendous about this community and just stepping up and being of service. So I'll be available after the service, and when we introduce the prayer chaplains and the board members stand up, look around. You can go talk to any board member, find out what it's like to be on the board, and get your applications in. Today's the deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And speaking of folks who have been providing service to our community, I want to acknowledge our ambassadors and our current Board of Trustees that are here this morning, as well as the prayer chaplains. If they would please stand, we can acknowledge you. And the ambassadors are wearing the rainbow ribbons, the colorful ribbons. And if you have any questions about Spiritual Life Center or want to know ways that you can get involved, where things are, who people are, what we do, they can answer some of those questions for you. Our prayer chaplains are, of course, doing the very important work of holding prayer consciousness for our community, and they're available to pray with you right after the service here in the sanctuary or in the courtyard. And of course, our Board of Trustees. We have Carolyn. We have who else is here? Sally. And thank them. And Rick is all the way in the back there, and we thank them for really helping set the direction of our spiritual community and the consciousness that they bring.
And if you're here for the very first time, in a moment we're going to ask you to raise your hand. But right now we just want to tell you that there are many, many ways to become connected here at SLC, and one of the ways is to talk to the people we've just introduced. You will also be given a a welcome card to fill out, and you can drop it in the offering basket or take it right outside around the corner to the welcome table, and they will give you a very special gift.
So if you are here for the very first time, we invite you now just to simply raise your hand. Any first timers here this morning? Yes, thank you. Keep your hand up, and we have a special gift for you. We're going to hand out to you a chalet and a card that if you'd like to fill out to know more about what's taking place at Spiritual Life Center. And on the chalet, there's a statement that reminds us that we believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and there are many paths to the one God. And we thank you for bringing your consciousness, your understanding of your connection with God, as well as the peace and the love that you are to our community as we widen this consciousness throughout our world. So thank you for your presence. And at this time, we have an opportunity to not only greet any of the first timers, but greet each other and say, "You look marvelous."
Clever, huh? That in?
Just giving a shout out to the inspiration. Well, good morning. So we have taken up the habit as we are working with our church whisperer and exploring how we will move into a mission-centric ministry and living with nothing and no one against us. Such an easy task, isn't it? So as a community, we've acknowledged and determined some of our trigger points that keep us from that gloriousness that we have come here to be. And so we've been speaking it out loud so we can bring it up, acknowledge it, and move it out. So let's do that together. Please have compassion for us when we are being not enough, distrusting, grieving, blaming, powerless, or fearful, because this is who we have come here to be. Inspired, in integrity, joy-filled, compassionate, unstoppable, generous, and transformational. And now let's embody all of those beautiful qualities of shadow and light into our vision statement. Spiritual Life Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions, weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom. We cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
Showers of grace, endless ocean of joy, pour into you, into me. Washed in pure love, the sacred heart reveals, humbly to serve the supreme.
Sing along with us.
As the bird sings, as the grass grows, as the dewdrop gleams, all that nature knows. Showers of grace, endless ocean of joy, pour into you, into me. Washed in pure love, the sacred heart reveals, humbly to serve the supreme. As the bird sings, as the grass grows, as the dewdrop gleams, all of nature knows. Showers of grace, endless ocean of joy, pour into you, into me. Washed in pure love, the sacred heart reveals, humbly to serve the supreme.
Take a moment now and take a deep breath. Let it go. Allow yourself to relax. Allow your breathing to just be natural and relaxed. And now shift your attention into your heart center. And allow your consciousness to drift up into a light daydream that will take us on a sacred journey. You stand in a room facing a door that is open to the outside. From where you stand, you can see a beautiful garden. and you want to go out and explore, but it's very cold out there. But because this is a daydream, a coat hangs on a hook right next to the door. As you put the coat on, you notice that it feels very heavy. But you think, well, that's good because it will keep me warm. As you walk through the door, you see 3 glowing altars set in a triangle around the yard. And as you walk towards the nearest altar, you realize that this coat is really heavy. It pulls on your shoulders, and it almost feels like a burden. What makes this thing so heavy, you wonder? And as you pat the coat, you soon discover there are many pockets, and each one is overflowing. Reaching into the first pocket, you pull out a book full of photos, letters, moments. As you flip through the pages, you find they are all represent events from the past. It is so heavy, it takes up all your attention and all of your energy to simply hold it. And so you walk up to the altar and set the book down. And a voice says, "This is the altar of release and forgiveness. If you place the book here, it will transform into guidance that will lead you forward. You will be free from the chains of the past." The book begins to glow, and then it dissolves into pure golden light. And gratitude fills your heart. And you take a breath and turn towards the next altar to see what's there. But the coat still feels heavy, and so you pat more pockets. In each pocket you find a dream, a wish, a to-do list, a promise to yourself or to others. There are so many that, again, it takes all of your attention and strength to hang on to them. It's a big stack, and so you just sort of unceremoniously plop them onto the altar. And a voice says, "This is the altar of the future. If you leave your shoulds, have-tos, and to-dos here, you will be free to live your life in what is rather than in what will be. Is this your choice to stop living in the future, ignoring the present?" And you say, "Yes, please." And then all of the distractions of the future dissolve into pure golden light. And now a light begins to emanate from your heart center. The coat feels lighter, yet it's more warm and secure than it was before. And you check, the pockets are empty. You are free. The third altar, glowing pure and white, beckons you. You understand now that the only thing you have to offer is your pure self, your own light. And you walk up and lay your hands on the altar. And as you lay your hands on the altar, allow your light to merge with the altar light, and allow yourself to dissolve into the golden one in the silence. your heart is filled with gratitude, and you feel free and clear and purified. And as you take a breath and begin to return from your daydream, receive this blessing. Oh, my beloved, in releasing the past and the future, you have chosen to live in now. Your burden is lifted, and you walk free and easy in each moment. Your inner light gives you the strength to release and rise to your highest self. Remember this always.
What happened to my heart? What used to be so full of life has grown so dark. Shadows of resentments and all the hurts I've ever felt. I'm on my knees. I need some help. Give me strength. Please help this dying heart to live. Grant me power. The power to forgive. What happened to the peace? I used to feel contentment deep inside of me. Now there's hurt and anger eating at my soul. I've gotta find a way to let it go. Give me strength. Please help this dying heart to live. Grant me power. The power to forgive. No, and I will not forget, but with forgiveness I just might find a way to let love in and heal my life. Give me strength. Please help this dying heart to live. Grant me power. The power to forgive. Please help this dying heart to live. Grant me power. The power to forgive. The power to forgive. The power to forgive, right? Power to forgive. The power to
Thank you, Larry. I'm so glad that Ann found you. Oh. You know, we've been working with this overall theme for the year, and we've been saying it from time to time. I think Paula says it about the idea we're here to wake up. We're here to clean up. We're here to grow up. We're here to show up. And if we're to do that, there's something within us that has to be different. And as I was looking at that theme, I was trying to kind of keep it linear. But I realized that it kind of goes in and out. One week, we got to wake up. We got to become aware of what's going on before we can do something different. Next day, we may have to show up. And then we got to clean some stuff up to get back to where we really are. You know, sometimes we just have to, wake up, clean up, show up, grow up. Yeah, we got to grow up. And I always take the grow up to mean, hey, we got to take 100% responsibility for our life. Someone asked me one time, what does God want? And I'm thinking, I have no idea what God wants for you. But something was revealed to me once that said, well, God just wants to be known and revealed through us. We're here to be its representation. And I believe that this presence that we call God is known by many different names, wants to express itself through us, because I think this presence had a magnificent idea. And that idea is you and me. And we're here to be a vehicle for its expression. You know, Ernest Holmes, who was the founder of religious science, had a quote. And in religious science, it's kind of like a compatible cousin of unity. All the teachers, Ernest Holmes and Charles Fillmore, Emily Cady, they all came up around the same time, studied under the same persons, primarily Emma Curtis Hopkins, for those who know a little bit about that history. And so but Ernest Holmes says something to the effect that all of nature is conspiring for the freedom of the individual in order that it may unloose its own energy. Unloose its own. What's our freedom? And I think part of releasing that energy is really being able to capture or be captured by divine and perfect spiritual ideas, be captured by the spiritual qualities so that we can bring it to our world. And so our job is to expand who we are so that we have the awareness, the consciousness that's big enough and bold enough to be the container to express it. You know, there's a statement by the master teacher Jesus. He said that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And I've always interpreted that to mean that, there are a whole bunch of great ideas, spiritual qualities, waiting for us to anchor it in form. But he says that few people have the conscience that's clear enough, pure enough to grow the idea. Someone said that, our life can be analyzed as being kind of in this way, that, if we look at a seed, that's an idea. The field that we plant the seed is really our minds. And the crop that grows is our life. And we'll have a crop dependent upon the quality of the seed idea and the field we planted in. Think about that. Scary for me at times. Because in this same scriptural reference, Jesus talks about the parable of the seed sower. And he said, you can attempt to plant a good dream, but if it's full of weeds, full of resentment or hatred or anger or revenge, it chokes it out. So we're talking about the idea of unforgiveness. When we have an unforgiving consciousness, we may not even see the blessing that is right in front of us or what Spirit has in store for us. And I was reminded of a story of a young man many, many years ago. He was a young man. He's an elderly gentleman now, but he was in Southern California, and he was framed by the police and put in jail, and he was sentenced for 17 years. And he knew that just any day now, somebody's going to come in, open up the door and say, this is a big mistake. You can go home now. But that never happened. after much legal wrangling, it was determined there was sufficient evidence that he was falsely accused, and he was released eventually, but only after about 17 years. And when he came out, he was being interviewed, and someone interviewed him and said, this is incredible how you are showing up. You don't have any trace of anger or resentment or bitterness, yet you've been in prison unjustly for 17 years. And this gentleman, Clarence Chan, said, oh, no. I was in prison for 3 years. Because for those 3 years, I was filled with anger and resentment and bitterness and unforgiving heart. Every day I felt locked in, victimized, and unhappy about what had happened to me. But he said that one day he had a revelation. And the revelation that happens whenever God's idea breaks through us. This is how we grow. We get an idea. And I think we get these ideas from Spirit either through pain, when we get hit by a 2x4 at the university, the cosmic 2x4, or through some insight, some revelation. And he had a revelation that was made in the image and likeness of God, and God was pleased with it. So after 3 years of having that resentment, he said that if I got here, so it must be where I should be right now. And after a while, he began to express the qualities of God of peace and joy and acceptance and forgiveness. He began to do his own inner work, despite the circumstances he was going through. And he said to himself, where do I have any beliefs of injustice or unfairness? Where do I have any belief in any of this? Where am I holding on to unforgiveness and resentment? And he began to ferret those things out of him. And I think we have to do the same in the work and untie our negative energy that no longer serves us. And as he said, as he began to do that, he began to have a new vision for himself. And he said the last 14 years he worked with other prisoners, teaching them the truth of who they were. And many went out free from prison and new beings and awareness of who they were. And so finally, when he said he was out of prison and free, but he said he had been free for 14 years. So a new vision for his life had unfolded. And I think whenever we hold any kind of resentment or suspicion toward another, we can miss the divine ideas that are there even in the midst of a trying circumstance. Because the negative energy is drowning out and blinding us from seeing it. So there are a lot of people who are outside the walls of a jail, but they are always imprisoned by their mind. They don't see the world that God has created. They only see their limited thoughts. They only see their limited thinking. So we cannot escape from a jail if we do not know we're in one. Sometimes we put ourselves there and we don't realize it. Charles Phillips, the co-founder of Unity, said, if you try to free yourself while holding another person in bondage with condemning thoughts, we cannot demonstrate our own freedom. So today we're talking about clearing the field of innocence, so we can live our life that we really want and love, live our heart's desire, fulfill God's will for us. Because we know that if we come here, that unlike other places where we try to blame other things outside of us, the devil, all our work is inner work. Sometimes we got to change the other people. Think that they will make us happy. If we just change them, then my life will be okay. But it's always ourselves. As someone said, the enemies within our own household, within our own minds. So that's why forgiveness was taught so much by the masters along the way. I don't know, and if we don't have that forgiveness, then we're blocking out the good. We can't even see it. I don't know if you ever had this experience where you're cleaning up your house, your office, and it's time for me to do that now. And as you look through all the stuff, then all of a sudden you see something that you had been looking for a long time. I said, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, here it is. It wasn't lost. It was here all the time behind all this stuff. Stuff that no longer serves us. And I think whenever we hold a resentful mind or a suspicious mind, we miss the divine ideas that Spirit has knocking on our awareness. because the energy is drowning it out. It's blinding us from seeing it. Someone said that an authentically empowered person is a person who forgives. And forgiveness is not a moral issue. It's not something that, oh, I need to do this because God or something wants me to do it. It is an energy dynamic, which means that we no longer carry the baggage of an experience. Popped in my mind about some gentlemen had gone out golfing, and one of the people that was in the party was named Harry, and they wanted to play 18 holes, and then after a while, they all came in. They were looking all kind of, weary and down and tired and just looking terrible. And somebody said, "What guys? What happened?" He said, "Oh man, somewhere around the 7th hole, Harry had a heart attack. So for the rest of the way, we had to hit the ball and drag Harry. Hit the ball and drag Harry." That's what unforgiveness does. We keep dragging stuff from the past into the present moment. It's only a story. But A Course in Miracles says something to the effect that forgiveness is a shift in perception that removes a block in us, so our awareness is there to see the love of God. That's why there's so much emphasis on forgiveness. We try to blame the other people, but whenever we hold any unforgiveness, we really hurt ourselves. I remember a gentleman who was in a business relationship with a partner, and it went bad, and the partner did some really, some bad things, some foul things for him in the business, and it went really bad for him, and they broke up, had a bitter separation. And for the next 10, 12 years, I would say, every time that person's name came up, he would just go on a rant about how horrible he was and how much he hated him. And he would just, his whole countenance would just turn red, beet red, and he was darker than I was. Just to show the number of anger he had toward the individual. Only to find out that his ex-partner had been dead for 10 of those 12 years. It didn't do anything to him. It did something to the other partner. It did something to him. No one suffers like the person blaming. Thoughts of hostility perpetuate our own inner stress. And it turns it into ill-being. It's really spiritual suicide. There was a group of people who felt depressed, not clinically depressed, but, just kind of blue for long periods of time. And they found that they were afflicted with something deadlier than the ordinary pressures of their day-to-day life or even a chemical imbalance. They were victims of their own resentful thoughts. So an individual spending a whole lot of money trying to figure out why they're in that state, they're forgetting they've been spending a great deal of their day fantasizing revenge, indulging in hostile thoughts toward people, institutions, or governments, whatever the case may be. While those other people are going about their business, they may not even remember you anymore. And we may be saying to ourselves, well, I must be the only one. Why is God always doing this to me? We may think we may be the chosen one. God's picking on me again. We're doing it to ourselves. The Buddhists have a statement that says, desire affects perception. Which really another way says the energy that we hold affects what we see. There could be a divine and perfect idea right in front of us, and we will not see it. And forgiveness is never for the other person. It's for us. When we see someone that seemingly have done harm to us, somewhere we have to find the vibration to send them a loving energy anyway. As I sometimes like to say, you can't really fall out of love. It's like falling out of a swimming pool. I've never seen a person fall out of a swimming pool. Maybe fall in. But you can't fall out of a swimming pool. But the difference is, are you going to swim in the deep end or the shallow end? I think once we fall in the pool, which means that we're made in the image and likeness and out of God, we're in a sea of love all of the time. But our role is to swim into the deep end. Many stay in the shallow end, which means I only love those people that I like, people that agree with me, people that are on my side, people who think and know I'm always right. But we're here to go to the deep end. And I think this is one of the master teachers would always say something to the effect, to love those who spitefully use you, persecute you, not on your side. There's only one side, and that's the side of God. Love at that deeper end includes everyone, and we're purifying that field. Now, some people want to go to that deep end. They say, well, if I love, if I forgive, then I have to hang out with that person. I have to go to dinner with that person. I got to stay married to that person. It does not mean any of that. It simply means that the resentment, the animosity, the separation is diminished, and we no longer hold others responsible for our own experiences. We're growing up. And it is a process. That change in perception doesn't always happen overnight. But sometimes we just have to see a situation differently. Sometimes we don't even know what's going on within another person. And I always like to use this analogy about Willie the fish. You may have heard about this story. Tell you about it. Let me tell you. There's a school of fish, they're swimming in the ocean together, and they're all in formation, and everything's like organized and coordinated, and they're looking good. And then all of a sudden, Willie the fish, just gets out of formation and flip-flopping around and jumping around, and everybody else is saying, look at Willie the fish. He's a disgrace to the fish family. But what they didn't realize that this fish had bit into a hook tied to an invisible line. They weren't aware of what was going on within that person, within that fish. And sometimes we don't know what's going on within another person that causes them to act in a certain way. We have to shift our perception and realize behind the hurt that they have given means that there's some hurt within them that they're projecting on another individual. Sometimes we have to forgive ourselves. Maybe, like I said, I think all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Because even when we're forgiving a so-called another person, what we're doing is changing how we see them and forgiving ourselves for not seeing them rightly. When I first got into this teaching, I was going through a lot of stuff and messed up my life a lot and had a lot of guilt. And my friend had invited me to go to this place called Unity, and I asked, well, what is that? Is that kind of like a church? He said, kind of, sort of. So I said, if you don't bother me anymore, I'll go this one time only. I sat in the back near the door just in case somebody said something I didn't like. And it just so happened that that message was specifically for me. It was so much for me that I knew that someone had violated my privacy rights and given him my information to prepare for that talk that day. And I remember part of it was the idea of forgiveness and his perspective on it. And I realized that I was a prime candidate for that. It changed my life, changed the trajectory of my life. I think for an individual, at least at that time, who made every mistake a human could possibly make and lived to talk about it, that's a whole story in and of itself, because I was dealing with some crazy people. That it doesn't matter. We can begin again. We can let go. There used to be a time around that time that it was not safe for people to walk down the streets of my mind. Because I attacked them with negative energy. But we know that the principle goes as within, so without. I was sharing with a young man who was so distraught this many years ago about the violence and the killings and the shootings in his community. He was asking what he could do. I said, well, you can get active, you can vote, you can try to change things on the outer, but mainly you have to start with yourself. Because if there are any hostile places of any kind within your mind, where it's unsafe for other people to travel because they'll snipe them with criticism or prejudice or they're wrong, I'm right. If there's other places for other people to travel in your mind, there has to be a corresponding something in our outside world. And there'll be drive-by shootings and places unsafe for people to travel. So what you want to do is go within. Clean up the own inner places within your soul and amplify drive-by blessings. Drive-by blessings. And so when the other so-called passes through, that person that gets on your last nerve, that person's always bothering us. That person's always seeing things from the other point of view. Every time you say something, they take the opposite side. When they pass through your heart of awareness, you give them a blessing. You pray for them, bless them, see the truth about them till it becomes a habit and something is transformed within our own souls and we touch that richness because we want to do that, not for them, but for us. I think one of the most provocative descriptions of forgiveness I came across is the idea to give for. To give some actual, definite good in return for the seeming harm that we have received. I witnessed that forgiveness by a young woman many years ago, named Melissa. She was an aspiring model, and her legs were crushed and mangled by a car that was driven by a drunk driver. And the case went to trial, and the driver was found guilty, and the day arrived for sentencing, and she was a very popular person in the community. And she was in the courtroom that day, and that was the days I was still doing some law and waiting on my own case, and came to her agenda. And everybody there, at least not everyone, but many people there, they were looking for retribution and revenge against the perpetrator that had caused this tragic event to her life. I think on a human level, it's understandable if she had held anger toward him and realized he had snuffed out her dreams to be that supermodel that she was on her way to becoming. But something happened, something surprising and unexpected, at least to most of the people who were there that day. This young woman pleaded with the judge to not send the man to jail. And what she said to the judge is that he didn't do it on purpose. He turned to the man who had caused her to have her legs amputated and have her life so drastically changed and said to him, I don't hate you. I'm mad at the alcohol, but I'm not angry at you. And the man began to cry. Tears went down his cheeks, and the young woman beckoned him to come to where she was, sitting in the wheelchair. And he came close to her, and Melissa reached up to him and handed him a Kleenex and hugged him and said, I forgive you. And they embraced. There were people there who were looking for retribution and revenge and were somewhat taken aback by her actions. Ultimately, the judge didn't go along with her plea for leniency because he had to do what had to be done, what's needed to be done on the Caesar level. And he was sentenced as requested by the prosecution. And the judge said the man had to be held accountable for his actions. In regard to that, he probably made the right decision. But the real story, the important truth was that young woman was able to see this man for truly who he was and who he is, as a child of God. Saw him rightly. And more importantly, it cleared her field. She was free. I think our charge is to clear our field of innocence, purify our consciousness so we can capture qualities of God, the ideas of God, let it be planted in our awareness so it can grow and be the activity of our life. It's interesting, this week I got a little note from the Southwest region, which is the region that covers this part of California for Unity churches, and I think they support a lot of the youth activities. I think we have some of the youth now that are there for the leadership conference. And interestingly, when they send a thank you note, they said, "Oh, dear James, in this grudge, by Alanis Morissette, I believe is her name. What's her name? Alanis Morissette. She has a song called The Grudge. And she sings, I want to be big and let go of this grudge that's grown old. I want to forgive for the both of us. And who's it hurting now? Who's the one that's stuck? And the writer of this note says, such a freeing feeling is forgiveness. Yet it's sometimes difficult to accomplish. But think of a person or situation you need to forgive, then let go to become free of any pain you may have held on to. I think the life we love and the world we want to see comes about when we capture those spiritual ideas. People would say it's every word that comes out of the mouth of spirit. I think in clearing the field of innocence, we not only are receptive and see those ideas for our lives, we begin to see the grand plan of the infinite, begin to see more clearly and begin to participate in it actively. We live out our oneness of who and what we really are. And we begin to see that we look at each other and we'll begin to see beauty. We'll not just see nationalities or differences in languages or color, but all shades of this infinite presence. We don't just see separate cultures, but we see how the Spirit needs every single one of them to express its infinite nature. But we must do the inner work. And we'll have a lot of opportunities. No question about it. You know, you walk out, you say, oh, that's some nice stuff James was saying today. I like that. You know? But we'll get 10 opportunities. Someone will say something you don't like. You'll be on the highway and someone will cut in front of you and you'll want to respond in kind. You'll be in the grocery store. Somebody will have 50 items and the 10 items are less line. And you're tempted to lower your vibration and react rather than respond to the Christ of your being. And ultimately you can say, what is that to me? Follow thou me, and put that crazy thought behind you. You'll clear that field. You'll see the possibilities so that you will see and hear and feel that life is for you and nothing is against you. You'll be able to see the dreams that you have that are chasing you. We'll find that we think we're chasing them, but really they're chasing us. We'll see them when we clear that field. When we see it, we will be it. And that's the name of that tune. As Beretta would say. Peace and blessings to you today. We have an opportunity to get into the flow of the divine giving. One of the great ideas of Spirit, that whatever we give out comes back to us. Just a reminder that I think next week we have Reverend Gary will be here speaking, and he's going to be giving a message above or below the line and how we can be clear on where we're coming from, and it's a perfect companion talk to those who have taken the Q effect. But let's prepare our love offering and symbolically raise them to the heavens or ever-expanding good. Know that if you give in any way, shape, or form, that it is supporting this community to help those who want to transform, those who may have a hurt that needs to rise, help them rise above it and see new possibilities when they don't see it for themselves. So with that awareness, let's say our offertory blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
proud to be strong. Just look into your heart, my friend. That'll be the return to yourself, the return to it.
The return to innocence.
If you want, then start to laugh. If you must, then start to cry. Be yourself, don't hide. Just believe in destiny. Don't care what people say. Just follow your own way. Don't give up and lose a chance to return to innocence.
The return to innocence.
It's the return to yourself, the return to innocence.
Start to laugh. If you must, then start to cry. Be yourself, don't hide. Just believe in destiny. Don't care what people say. Just follow your own way. Don't give up and lose a chance to return to innocence. Return to innocence. Just return to innocence. Just return to innocence. Just return to innocence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day today.
The return to innocence, our pure self. And in this consciousness of pure being, we send out the blessings from our hearts. We bless the tithes, offerings, the givings, knowing He's going to bless all those that it supports in some way, shape, or form. So we're grateful and thankful as we go forth, expressing the truth of our being, letting go of anything that's holding us back. Amen. And with that, let's join together and sing our peace song.